Good morning, everyone. Okay, today we're going to talk about the bank expansion of money supply with a focus on creation of money supply through deposits. So this is going to be a nice overview of what you read. Obviously, pay attention closely because I mean, based on my experience, this is one of the more difficult concepts for AP Macro kids to understand. Here we go. Today we're going to focus on three main ideas. Money creation, which is created through the ripple effect of loans. We'll talk about the difference between required reserves and excess reserves, and then the money multiplier, which is just 1 over the required reserve. So the big idea for you to understand today is, how do banks create money? So by the end of this video, you should be able to answer that question. Okay, we're going to start with an example. I own a bank. It's called Jundertaker Bank. We will take your loans to the grave. Okay, we have our first depositor. Our depositor is Tom Hanks. Yeah, I chose him because he got the coronavirus when I made this slide. Sorry. Anyways, Tom Hanks deposits money into my bank. Look at him running in that photo. He's running to my bank to deposit his money. I then take his his deposit, and I loan part of it out to Idris Elba. Yep, I picked Idris Elba because he also got diagnosed with the coronavirus. These are dark times we're living in. So I, the bank, lend part of Tom Hanks' deposit to Idris Elba. So this is how banks create money. They do so by creating loans by using money from their depositors. This is the main idea, okay? It's pretty abstract, but your book talked about it, or your reading did, and I'm illustrating it for you here. So they take money from other people's deposits and lend out part of it in the form of loans, and hence they create money. We're going to move on to an important idea, reserve requirement and excess reserves. So the reserve requirement is a percent of deposits that need to be kept within the bank itself. So a certain percent of deposits need to be kept as either currency in the bank vault or in an account at the Federal Reserve. Money that is in reserves does not earn interest, and it's not counted as part of the money supply. So this is money that the banks need to keep on hand just in case. Now, the excess reserves are just any money that's beyond the reserve requirement. And what banks do with this money is they can then loan it out and hence create money. And if banks hold on to excess reserves and don't loan it out, it then gives them financial security in case of a bank panic. So a bank can either loan out excess reserves or hold on to it to give it some financial security. Let's talk about some history here for a second. During the Great Depression, when everyone lost their jobs, they were worried that they wouldn't get their money back from banks, from their deposits. And so there were a lot of bank runs caused by bank panics. And when a bank run happens, everyone runs to the bank to withdraw money. And guess what? At some point, the banks don't have enough money. And so that's why when the New Deal was happening, so the New Deal was a program created by FDR, who's pictured on top there. He actually created the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which is meant to insure you as a depositor against a bank run. So right now, if you own a debit card, it means you have a checking account, and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insures you up to $250,000. So if you have that much money in your checking account, congrats, and you are insured by the FDIC to be able to withdraw at least that much in case there's a bank panic. Okay, so let's do a quick practice. Let's say you deposit $100 into the bank and the reserve requirement is 20%. How much does the bank need to keep in reserves? Well, you do $100 times 0.2, so the reserve requirement or the required reserves would be $20. So the bank could loan out $80 of your $100 deposit. Okay, we're going to move on to the money multiplier. So in the last unit, we talked about the spending multiplier. And that was where we looked at how a government injection of money into the economy can kick off a chain effect of spending, where, the government gives everyone $100. People then spend part of that $100 And that money is then spent by someone else, which is then spent by someone else. So the chain effect of spending ends up with where we can calculate it by using 1 over MPS. This should not be new to you. The money multiplier is a similar or analogous concept. So in this unit, the money multiplier occurs because of a chain effect of banks loaning out deposits over and over again. So a bank takes someone's deposit and loans it out to someone else. That person then uses that money, spends it somewhere, it gets deposited in a bank, which is then loaned out again. And every bank has a reserve requirement. So not all of the deposit is loaned out. And so that's why when we're calculating the total effect of someone making a deposit, we use the formula 1 over RR multiplied by the amount of the loan. We'll do a practice in a second, but you need to understand the money multiplier. Basically, when banks loan money over and over again, it creates more money in our economy, and the total creation by the end of it all is 1 over RR times however much that initial loan was. We have 2 key assumptions, though. The first one is that all money that is loaned out is redeposited in another bank. And the second assumption is that banks do not hold onto any excess reserves. Let me actually revisit the first assumption. So it actually, these don't hold in the real world. So if we look at number 1, when money is loaned out, someone is taking that money and they're spending it on something, right? Whether it's for college or for a business investment, it's not actually fully deposited in another bank. So some money leaks out during that redeposited process in real life. And then as for the second assumption, banks do sometimes hold on to excess reserves because maybe they do want to be profitable. Okay, so I want you to think for a second. If 1 and 2, if we assume that they're true, would the money multiplier overstate or understate the amount of money that's created when loans are made? Think for a second. You ready for the answer? Well, I'm moving on anyway. So the money multiplier overstates money creation. If we hold these theory assumptions to be true, or with these theory assumptions, it's going to overstate money creation. In reality, some money leaks out in steps 1 or in assumption 1 and assumption 2. So in reality, some people actually hold on to the currency that they borrow from the bank. They don't just deposit it all in a bank again. And then some banks do hold on to excess reserves. I hope I explained that clearly. Sorry if I didn't. Email me if you got questions. We're going to do an example. If Tom Hanks deposits $100 in the Undertaker Bank and the reserve requirement is 0.2, how much money is available for loans? Give a second to think about it. It's pretty easy math. $80 is available for loans. The reason for that is I took the $100. I need to, by law, save $20 in reserve requirements, either as cash in the vault or at an account at the Federal Reserve. So 100 minus 20 is 80. I get $80 in excess reserves that I can then loan out. My next question, what is the increase in the money supply as a result of Tom Hanks' deposit? Think for a second. By the way, here's where you should be using the money multiplier. That's the answer. So Tom Hanks' $80 then gets loaned out, and the loan deposit chain effect happens. And so the multiplier is 1 over 0.2. So an extra $400 is created in the economy as a result of his $100 deposit. Hope we're clear. So, by now you should be able to understand how do banks create money. You should be able to answer that. If you are confused, please reread the book, or in this case, the handout that you were given. You could replay the video, or you could email me. We can set up a time to chat, or if you don't feel like chatting, you can just email me a question and I'll write you back. By the way, I'm going to start ending every video lecture with a dad joke because why not? So here we go. Why did the bank teller leave her job? She lost interest. Oh man, guys, we've been in quarantine for too long. All right. Now you have a worksheet. The answers are posted online. Give it a shot. Good luck.